The sun rose gently over Eastline Junction. Birds chirped on broken electric poles. Taxi horns echoed in the street. A woman shouted prices from her Acura stall. And inside a small one-room apartment, Nina stood in front of her cracked mirror, tying her navy blue hotel scarf into a neat bow. Her eyes were sharp. Her shoulders were squared. She had not only mastered staying awake, she had mastered herself. As she stared at her reflection, something flickered deep in her eyes. Fire. Not the kind that burns down houses, but the kind that rebuilds them. Coral View Hotel was a place of many faces. Businessmen, tourists, secret lovers, thieves in suits, preachers with charm, nurses in scrubs, children in tears. Everyone passed through that glass door. And behind the front desk was Nina, always smiling, always alert, always watching. One day, a guest shouted at her because his room key didn't work. Another tried to bribe her for an upgrade. Once, she caught a man trying to sneak a girl into a room after midnight. Nina didn't flinch. She had seen worse at the construction site. But the hotel was teaching her something new, how to stay awake not just with her eyes but with her mind. She learned people. She read emotions. She learned patience, timing, silence. And she started writing again. Not in a diary, but in a notebook titled, The New Nina. Every Saturday, Sam brought Junior to the hotel lounge. They'd sit on the blue velvet couch near the flower vase. Nina would take her break just to sit with them. Junior would run around shouting, "Mama! Come and see," as he showed her every new toy or word he learned. Sam would watch Nina quietly. There was pride in his eyes. "She's different," he once told a friend. "She walks like someone who has been through fire and came out gold." But one Saturday, Junior didn't come. Instead, Sam showed up alone. His face was pale. "Junior's sick," he said. "High fever. We're at Royal Hospital." Nina didn't even take off her uniform. She followed him in silence. When they got to the hospital, Junior lay on a metal bed with 4 tubes in his arm. He looked tiny, sweaty, weak. But when he saw Nina, he still smiled. "Mama." She rushed to him and held his small hand. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." That night, Nina didn't sleep. Not because she was fighting sleep, but because her heart wouldn't let her. She sat by Junior's bedside, whispering prayers, stroking his hair, watching every beep on the monitor. Sam sat too. For hours they said nothing. Then Nina looked at him. "Do you still think I'm too sleepy to be a mother?" Sam looked up, eyes full of regret. "No. I think you're the strongest person I know." They held hands. And that night, something between them healed quietly, like a wound that had stopped bleeding and finally began to close. By morning, Junior's fever broke. The doctor smiled. "He's strong, just like his mother." One Thursday afternoon, a fire alarm rang in Coral View Hotel. Guests ran out screaming. Smoke poured from room 208. The receptionist beside Nina screamed, "Fire! Call fire service." But Nina didn't run. She looked around. One guest, a pregnant woman, was still upstairs. Nina kicked off her shoes, ran up the smoky staircase, coughing, shielding her mouth with her sleeve. She banged on the room door. "Madam, are you there?" A weak voice responded. "I can't breathe." Nina kicked the door twice. On the third try, it broke open. Smoke poured out like a wave. She rushed in, found the woman on the floor, and dragged her out into the hallway. Her hands burned. Her lungs screamed. But she didn't stop. By the time the firefighters arrived, Nina had carried the woman downstairs, her uniform covered in soot. People clapped. Phones recorded. "She saved her," someone shouted. By evening, her photo was on social media. "Hotel worker saves pregnant guest from fire." Sleep ambassador turns hero. The story spread. TV, blogs, radios. Old classmates called her. A man even asked her to come speak at a girls' college. Amanda cried when she saw Nina's picture in the newspaper. "My daughter, the Fire Queen," she whispered proudly. Nina returned to work 3 days later, hand bandaged, face calm. But now guests smiled at her more. "Good afternoon, Madam Nina," they said. Even her manager gave her a promotion, guest relations officer. New badge. Higher pay. Respect. One quiet Sunday, Sam came to visit. He brought a bag of roasted corn, a bottle of malt, and Junior in a tiny denim jacket. Nina welcomed them into her apartment. The room had changed, new curtains, small fridge, calendar with flowers. After they ate, Sam reached into his pocket and brought out a small box. Nina's heart paused. "No, not a ring," he said quickly, laughing. He opened it. Inside was a necklace. Pendant was a tiny alarm clock, frozen at 6 o'clock. "Why 6 o'clock?" she asked. "That was the time I first saw you sleeping in church," he said. "And I knew you were different." Nina laughed softly. She took the necklace. "Thank you." Then he stood up, took Junior's hand, and whispered, "We want you to come home for good." Nina froze. Home? Yes. Not as the girl who failed, but as the woman who rose. Nina moved back to Sam's apartment 2 weeks later. They cleaned the house together, repainted the walls. Junior's drawings were framed and hung. There was laughter, music, teamwork. But Nina didn't quit her job. She worked part-time now. Sam respected her time, her schedule, her space. At night, she didn't just stay awake, she stayed present. No more burnt food. No more forgotten doors. She danced with Junior in the kitchen. She read bedtime stories. She even taught a night class once a week for women who worked late shifts called How to Stay Awake in a Sleeping World. One evening, during a thunderstorm, there was a power cut. Sam had traveled for work. Junior was watching cartoons on Nina's phone. Suddenly, silence. Darkness. Then a bang on the gate. Nina stood. The rain poured heavily. She peeked outside. 3 masked men stood at the gate. Her heart raced. She grabbed Junior and hid him inside the wardrobe. Then she called the police from her phone. Next, she picked up a broomstick and stood behind the door. The gate creaked. Someone tried to force it open. Then sirens. Red and blue lights. The thieves scattered into the night. Nina collapsed on the floor, heart pounding. Junior opened the wardrobe and ran to her. "Mama!" "I was scared." She hugged him tightly. "So was I." But Mama stayed awake. The storm had passed. But inside Nina's chest, her heart still beat like a drum. That night, she didn't sleep a wink. Not out of fear this time, but out of power. Power she had never known she carried. Power that came from protecting her child, from facing danger and standing her ground. The next morning, the police came to check on them. "Ma'am, you did the right thing," the officer said. "Hiding your son. Calling quickly. You saved your home." Junior stood beside her in his red pajamas, hugging her tightly. "Mama is my superhero." Nina smiled weakly. But inside, something glowed brighter than ever before. She was no longer just the sleep ambassador. She was Nina. A word about the break-in spread across the neighborhood. The mothers whispered about it at the market. Children asked questions in the street. What did she do? Was she scared? How did she stay awake in that storm? Soon, someone knocked on her door. It was Mama Peace from the next block. She was holding her daughter, Ada. "Nina, please, can you talk to my girl?" she said. "She keeps sleeping in class and has lost 2 jobs already. You understand, don't you?" Nina invited them in. They talked for hours. Ada cried. She didn't want to be like this. Nina held her hands. You're not lazy, but you have to choose who wins, your dreams or your sleep. After that day, more women came. Teenage girl who always fainted during morning assembly. A security woman who lost her job after being caught asleep on duty. A mother who missed her child's PTA meeting because she overslept. They all came. And Nina did not turn anyone away. She started a free Saturday group at her local church called Wake Women. Each week they gathered. They shared. They cried. They laughed. They learned. Nina taught them tricks she used: pepper bomb under the nose, standing instead of sitting, clapping patterns, purposeful planning, and even rewriting internal stories. You're not lazy, she said one day. You're layered. But even a heavy blanket can be lifted. One morning, as she served breakfast to Junior, pancakes with honey, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Hello, is this Miss Nina Okafor? Yes. This is Dr. A. Bayona from the Lagos Women's Conference Committee. We'd like you to speak at our event this year. Nina nearly dropped the phone. Me? Speak. Yes. We read your story. Your hotel fire rescue. Your women's group. Your story, it's needed. She froze. Will I be paid? Of course. Plus hotel, travel, everything. Nina sat down slowly. Okay. Yes, I'll come. The event took place in a grand hall in Victoria Island. Golden lights. Red carpet. Chairs like thrones. Microphones. Cameras. Journalists. Nina wore a long sky blue gown with silver stones at the sleeves. Her hair was tied in an elegant bun. Her eyes were painted softly. Sam sat in the crowd. Junior waved excitedly, holding a paper that said, Geo Mama! Nina took the stage. The hall went quiet. She took a deep breath. Then began. Good morning. My name is Nina. Some call me the Sleep Ambassador. But I call myself something else now, a fire walker. A ripple of interest went through the crowd. She told them her story. How she was born yawning. How she slept through school, relationships, even parenting. How she lost herself. And how she fought, one painful day at a time, to return. Today, I don't just stay awake with my eyes. I stay awake with my purpose. Tears flowed. Applause thundered. Even the journalists stood up. One woman in the back shouted, You just woke something inside me. After the speech, a woman in glasses approached her with a red folder. I'm from the City Health Research Council, she said. We've been following your story. There's a condition called idiopathic hypersomnia. It's rare. But it sounds like what you once had. Nina blinked. There's a name for it? Yes, the woman said. And now that you've conquered it, we want to partner with you to help others understand it. Inside the red folder were documents, photos, and an invitation to become a public ambassador for sleep-related conditions. Nina accepted. That night, she cried in Sam's arms. They used to laugh at me, and now I'm being called a teacher. He kissed her forehead. They didn't laugh at you, love. They just didn't understand the fire inside your sleep. Back in Oberland Heights, Amanda was the queen of the street. Every shopkeeper, every water vendor, every tailor called her Mama Nina. She wore her daughter's photo on a chain around her neck. She's the one who stays awake even when the world sleeps, she would say. And people would nod with respect. One day, during a TV interview, the presenter asked Nina, If you could go back and change your story, would you wish to be born normal? The room fell silent. Nina thought deeply. Then said, No, I wouldn't change a thing. Why not? The host asked. Because the one thing that held me down is the very thing that lifted me up. My sleep was a message. I just had to learn how to read it. Years passed. Nina opened a sleep and resilience center in the city. Women came from across the country to train under her. Young girls read her children's book, The Girl Who Slept Through the Sun But Woke Up Like a Star. Hospitals called her. Schools invited her. Even city leaders asked her to help create youth mental health programs. And every Sunday she returned to that church, yes, the same one where she had once dozed off in the back. She no longer sat by the wall. She stood on the stage. And sometimes she caught girls sleeping in the chairs. She never shouted. She just smiled and whispered as she passed. "Wake up, sweetheart. There's a fire in you. Don't sleep on it."